All right. Ozonics Killerwinds podcast back again. Episode 47. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
We are at it again.
A little DNR talk. Probably the last DNR talk for a little while, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we got some stuff in the works, but what we are talking about today is the 2023 Iowa Deer Hunter Survey Report. So during the fall, I don't even remember when I actually got it, and they don't actually, do they say, oh, they did. It was in June, actually. It wasn't the fall. It was the summer.
I was going to say I thought that it was in June because I think I remember you getting it, you asking me if I got it, but I wasn't, I don't think I was a resident yet.
Nope.
It was probably right in that kind of time frame.
Yep. So the Iowa Dnr sent out a survey all about deer hunting, a lot of different things. It was really interesting. I was really excited that I got it. And at the time, it just came in the mail as like a little packet, like a pamphlet, multiple fold, tons of questions. I wish I would have brought it into the office and like taken a copy of it so we could see it.
Yeah.
But we'll get into a lot more of the context of kind of how the survey was distributed, and then talking about everything. There's 8 different sections of the survey. But as a person that filled it out, I guess what I thought right off the bat is I felt like there was a lot of questions about cellular trail cameras, and there was a lot of questions about crossbows.
Mm-hmm.
There was other questions too, but I felt like it was like 2 questions about, or like 3 questions about, like 3 questions about crossbows, trail cameras, and 2 questions about other stuff. 3 questions about crossbows and trail cameras, then 2 questions about other stuff. 4 questions about trail cameras, 1 question about other stuff.
Yeah.
It felt very swayed toward that. And maybe I was just more ultra sensitive to that because I was like, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
And then when I saw those questions, I was like, oh.
Makes sense.
Maybe it wasn't that way. Maybe that was very kind of like uniformly all the way across. I don't have the questionnaire in front of me.
Yeah.
But I do have the results and everything like that. So like I said, as a person that got the survey, I thought it was kind of swayed towards that. Like I said, I got the pamphlet in the mail. What I found out is they actually tried to get a hold of all the people that got the survey a couple different ways before that, before they actually sent out a paper copy. So I've got the results right here. It's actually a ton of pieces of paper. I don't know if you can see it. We got a whole bunch of pieces of paper, and I had my blue pen and my highlighter going, and so I'm going to be holding this up most of the way. So sorry if you're watching this, but and again, I think we should keep a ticker of how many times I say interesting. Interestingly, right off the bat, they distributed the survey to 16,501 deer hunters right off the bat, which was approximately 10% of the deer hunters, the 10% sample to the resident population of deer hunters in the state of Iowa. So right off the bat, again, what I really felt like was really interesting about this was as much the survey results, but I felt like kind of trying to read between the lines of some of the information that they don't really say in here, but it's like, I always kind of wondered. For example, 16,501 deer hunters, if that's 10%, if you extrapolate that out, that means the state of Iowa in 2023 had roughly 165,010 resident deer hunters. We know that they allow 6,000 non-residents every year, which is giving state of Iowa and deer hunters 171,000 deer hunters in the state of Iowa. They were very specific in here about establishing who the quote-unquote deer hunters were. So they went into a couple different buckets: landowner, tenant only, paid license only, or both, and method of take: bow only, gun only, or both. And these were all residents. Okay. So that's what you can count on right now when you think about the survey. It was distributed to 16,000 people right off the bat, and they were looking for residents only.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is they first sent it out. It sounded like they sent it out as like an email. Okay, like, hey, here, fill out the survey. They got very few results right off the bat. So then they sent it out a second time digitally. Hey, fill this out.
Yeah.
And then the third time, they sent it out as what they called like a postcard, like a paper booklet, okay, to fill it out.
Yeah.
And altogether of those 16,501 deer hunters that had the opportunity not only twice digitally, but once on the paper booklet, they had 4,062 respondents.
Oh, wow.
Only 4,000 of 16.
Did you get the emails too?
I must have, because they said they sent it out via the emails first twice, and then they sent out the paper copy. And of that, they said 2,024 responded online, 2,038 responded via paper booklet. And just let me make sure here. It says the sample was drawn. It says the section 16 on June 24th. A second postcard mailing was sent to all non-respondents. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, so it was sent online. So I shouldn't say that I know it was via email.
Yeah.
However they sent it, I had no idea about it.
Right.
When I got it in the mail, I was like, oh, cool. Like a questionnaire.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, and it was a booklet. It was multiple pages.
Yeah.
So as I read through this survey, so that's what you could take off the bat is 16,000 people had the opportunity, but they only got 4,000 respondents.
That's crazy.
So it's not a ton.
No.
4,000 of 16,000 is not a lot.
Yeah, that's a very small.
4,000 of 165,000 resident deer hunters.
Yeah.
So the thing I would say in our caveat to this is it's really interesting to read the results, but it would be super awesome if they could have gotten 80,000 of 165,000.
Yeah, exactly.
I would think.
Just more people.
Yeah. I would think right off the bat, the Iowa Dnr would look to in the future skip the online versions and just send out the paper copy. They sent out the paper copy once, got just as many responses pretty near as they did sending it out digitally twice.
Yeah.
Now again, the paper copy costs a lot more, but still, So and again, I don't know what the percentage of to where you can, and maybe it is 10% to extrapolate what it would be.
Yeah.
Big picture for people's opinions and perspectives. But
quick question, actually, do they do this every year? Do you know?
I think this is. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the first time I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Maybe I was never in the 10%.
Yeah, exactly. Just a person that never got it.
Yeah, but as you go through the as I went through the results of this and looking at the report, there's little tidbits of information in here that they kind of talk about that I want to kind of mention right at the beginning that I thought was pretty interesting. They said that the response rate was approximately 25%.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm sure they were hoping it was going to be higher. Maybe they were okay with that. But there's a section in here about crossbows. They said that 19% of the respondents were crossbow users.
Crazy.
So of the 4,062 that responded, that means there were 771 that were crossbow users.
Huh.
But that kind of led me back to the hunter demographics. That was a section 1. So I kind of look at it in over 45, under 45. Mm-hmm. And even the 25 to 45, there was 1,000 respondents. But from 45 to 65 plus, so 45 and up, there was 2,500.
Jeez.
So a lot more older than younger. Again, 25 to 45, which I feel like is the very, very active bow hunter group. You know, and again, that's more of the group that we're closer to.
Mm-hmm.
Only 1,000 people responded. But from the 45 to 65 plus, 2,500.
Yeah, and it kind of, I feel like that kind of sucks a little bit because it's like, one, the numbers are going to be a little bit skewed.
Yep.
And two, you're getting the opinion of people, you know, who are older, and it sucks to say this, but like they're not going to be hunting forever.
Yep.
I feel like it would have been more valuable to get a younger person's perspective that is going to be a part of maybe these proposed changes that they get from this for years to come.
Well, and the big thing I would have wished is if you would just look at it under 45, over 45, I wish it was 2,500 and 2,500. Now, if you look at completely under, if you look at, because they did 16 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 44. So if you go 16 to 44, there was 1,400 altogether. So there was 400 16 to 24-year-olds. Mm-hmm. But when you look at 45 to 54, 55, 64, 65 plus, it was 2,500.
Yeah.
I just wish it was more even not so kind of swayed towards the older guy.
Right,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? And again, I think that makes you can extrapolate that, and it kind of makes sense why there's 19% crossbow hunters.
Exactly.
Because
Yep.
I know as a 39-year-old guy, I don't know anybody 45 and under that shoots a
Right,
crossbow.
exactly.
Anybody.
Yep.
And so, but one of the other things that was interesting, again, the survey was, I felt like what I remember about it, and now looking at the results, and we heard them talk about the survey during the DNR annual meeting.
Yep.
And they talked about the gentleman that was discussing it. He sounded like he had a big part in setting this up.
Yeah.
Trying to really kind of get at kind of hot topics and pointed topics that everybody wants to know about. But I felt like hearing him talk about it and looking at the survey results, it felt very balanced in the fact that it was talking about bow hunting.
Yeah.
It was talking about gun hunting. It wasn't just bow hunting. It wasn't just gun hunting. It wasn't just cell cams. It wasn't just crossbows.
Yeah.
They talked about drones. They talked about all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Interestingly, right off the bat, like I said, when we look at some of the demographics, they talked about rifle owners, rifle hunters. 69% of the people surveyed owned a rifle.
Really?
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the state of Iowa where it's like we have our shotgun seasons. Now they're allowing straight wall cartridges.
Yeah.
There was a section in here that asked questions about bolt action rifles, and they said how many, and of the people that filled out the survey, how many people used a rifle? 69% or had a rifle.
Wow.
So if they ever allowed bolt action rifles, pretty sure there wouldn't be any problem with guys getting out there and doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Other interesting thing, they talked about cameras. 60% of the people surveyed used cameras, whether that be a cell cam or a
SD
internal card
Yeah.
or internal memory card, like they called it. So yeah, but again, I thought that was really interesting to know that, roughly based on, they talked about landowner, tenant only, paid license only, or both, and then just being residents, 165,000 deer hunters bought licenses, 6,000 non-residents. So you're looking at 171,000 hunters. Thought that was pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So again, the first section that they talked about was really who responded to the survey. And like I said earlier, they called it the hunter demographics, and they talked about the median age being 45 to 54. So right in the middle. If you looked at everybody and just counted down and got to the middle, you would be at 45 to 54. But you can see on the graph, it's very much swayed 45 and older.
Yeah.
It's just an older crowd that took the time to fill it out, which I feel like kind of makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
From there, it got into section 2, which was about hunter harvest effort and activities. So I thought this was pretty interesting. It says that some of the questions were about hunting season preference. So the archery season was the most preferred deer hunting season in Iowa. Okay. So, which had 37% of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next closest was shotgun 1 at 30%, shotgun 2 at 20%. And then early and late muzzs were actually very close, 6 and 7%.
Interesting.
Early was 6, late was 7.
Huh.
So, it's crazy to think back for me how much that's changed since I was a kid. Because, man, when I was a kid, shotgun 1 was way ahead.
Way ahead. Yeah.
Archery was just like way behind.
Mm-hmm.
Late muzz, early muzz, like that was kind of a thing I was like kind of coming on, but it was really first and second shotgun, and then maybe archery, but late muzzleloader too. I thought that late muzzleloader was going to be way bigger than that.
That's what I
preferred. But it's saying it's just preferred. Doesn't mean that they don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But preferred method.
Yeah.
Or a preferred season was archery season.
Yeah, that's what I thought the same thing you did. Right when you said that, I kind of would have imagined that the late muzzleloader would have been just a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But
yep. So then the next talked about hunting effort. How many days do you spend in the woods? It said on average, respondents spent 14 days deer hunting in Iowa during 2020-2023 season. 14 days. That was the average over all the different seasons. But again, archery led it with 19.8 days.
Huh.
But then, interestingly, the next highest was late muzz, 7.3 days.
Really?
Not surprisingly, shotgun seasons, 3.2, so short.
Yeah,
Second
exactly.
shotgun, 4.4.
Yeah.
But again, then it's kind of how do you read into the data? Because if you think about it, there's just right off the bat, there's 30 plus 30, there's 60, 60 plus whatever late muzz is. There's another 60 plus another 25. There's like 85 days of archery season.
Yeah.
And then you're only hunting 19 of the 85. But there's only Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're 5 days in shotgun one, and they're hunting 3.2 of those 5 days. So if you looked at it as a percentage, there's like guys that are spending a lot more of, again, it's a smaller season, but they're spending a lot more of it out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Longer the season doesn't mean you're hunting 60 days.
Yeah.
Guys are only hunting 20 days.
Yeah.
And you even think about that, they're only in 20 days between October and November. 20 days? That's 10 days a month.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that still feels like a big number, but when you look at how many days are in the season.
Right. It's really not too crazy,
yeah,
honestly.
Yeah. Early muzz, 4.5 days. So, yeah. I was kind of surprised to see late muzz at 7.3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, guys they're either bucking the cold or they're sitting in a shooting house.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's a lot of days. Okay. Deer harvest. This was when it gets into the really, really good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff in this. One of the things I'll say about the deer harvest that when I read this, I was like, wow, there is still opportunity to knock on doors if you're a resident. And I will get into that here right now. More than half of the respondents, which was 54%, primary deer hunting property was private land that was not owned or leased. It was quote unquote permission based. So think about that. 54% of residents just hunt based on permission.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a ton.
I know. When I read that, I was like, wow. Because again, you hear so much about leases and you hear so much about that stuff. But in all reality, half the guys have just knocked on doors and have permission.
Yeah.
Now, again, a lot of landowners are deer hunters too.
Right.
So could that be skewed a little bit that way? Maybe, but still, I think about that. 54% primary deer hunting property is private land that's not leased.
Yeah. And again, too, the interesting thing about this whole survey, again, is that's another kind of point where it's like if there's a lot of older guys doing it, I mean, an older guy probably isn't going to be knocking on too many doors. Like he's probably established and has his own.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of another interesting kind of little
Or
point.
if it's an older guy that is a farmer or an older guy that has his own property, then obviously it's permission that's not leased.
Yeah.
But it's still, I thought that was a big number, 54%, over half. A total of 29% of respondents primarily deer hunt on private property that they own. So think about that, 29% on private property they own. So when we talked about a second ago, they're recognizing 29%. So 54% are hunting on private ground that's permission. 29% are hunting their own ground. And then 15% of respondents primarily deer hunt on public land.
15%.
15% of residents. So again, extrapolate that out of that big number.
Yeah.
Extrapolate that out of 165,000. It's not a lot.
No.
And there's only 6,000 non-residents. And
crazy.
how many of those 6,000 non-residents are hunting with an outfitter or hunting on leased ground?
Dang.
I mean, the moral of the story for me is like, that's why for me that these numbers, they don't lie. And that's why I feel like when you drive to public hunting parking lots, you don't see a lot of cars because there's not a lot of guys that are doing it.
No, yeah, you really don't.
There are guys that are.
Oh, without a doubt.
Ding, ding.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Like, hi, get your membership card.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people are.
And it's true. Like you hit the nail on the head there. Like I mean, how many times did we go to a public spot this year and there was a car parked there?
Hey, guess what? We just made a microclip. I mean, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
It's true.
Yeah, 15%. Only 15% of residents, their primary way is public land.
Crazy.
Okay. Doesn't mean that they don't do other ways, but still. And then 2% of respondents primarily deer hunt on private land that they leased for deer hunting purposes.
Only 2%.
2%.
What the heck?
I know.
It's really crazy.
I know. That's why I wish this survey was 80,000 people responded, because I really wonder how these numbers would change. I also would really like to know, are they going to do they do this every year? Are they doing it next year? Because I'd love to compare these results if they could get a higher result percentage.
Well, that's kind of why I asked
dude,
earlier.
Yeah. You know what else I thought of? And I literally thought of this the other day, and when we started to look at this, and I don't know who I need to go mention this to. You know what they ought to do? They ought to stand at the Iowa Deer Classic and have these surveys.
Yeah.
please fill this out. Do you know how many people would stand there and fill that out?
A lot of people.
And even if you said, hey, fill it out, we'll give you an Iowa Dnr koozie or I don't know, something.
Yeah.
Everybody would fill it out. You know how many more people? They could probably get 4,000 people at the Iowa Deer Classic.
Yeah. Yeah, give them a nice little desk to sit at, rest their feet.
Yeah, just take a second, fill this out for us. Answer the questions. It'll take you 5 minutes. It doesn't take that long. It didn't take that long.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, so
boxes.
Moral of the story, like I said at the beginning of this section, is there's still opportunity to knock on doors. If you're out there and you're like, oh man, I don't know where to hunt, go start knocking on doors. Go check out some pieces of public ground.
Yeah.
Next, it went into preferred method of take. So across all respondents that were responding to the shotgun seasons, 58% primarily used stationary methods of hunting, and 42% primarily drove deer. Which I also thought, I was like, because whenever you think about shotgun seasons in Iowa, you think about deer drives. And when we were there at that meeting, somebody raised that question, and one of the guys, the COs, he goes, yeah, there's not as many deer drives as there used to be. It's not like that. A lot of guys are sitting and waiting.
Crazy.
58% primarily used stationary methods. Man. Only 42% drove deer.
That's wild.
Yep.
And that would be an interesting thing to look at what that number was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And he said, you heard that CO say, he's like, yeah, those groups of guys that are really into like the group party hunting, he's like, it's not what it was.
Petering out a little bit.
Yep. He's like, those guys are getting older. They're just not doing that as much.
Wild.
Yep. Yeah.
And I apologize, but that was just during, during Shotgun 1 and 2 or?
And it said the shotgun firearm seasons.
Okay.
It said both. It says participating in deer drives and stationary hunting appeared equally popular among respondents that preferred the Shotgun 1 season, while there was a slight preference towards deer drives for Shotgun 2.
Gotcha.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's funny because as I read this, I was like, man, I wonder about that. And then like the next sentence, they answered that question.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Kudos to whoever was the guy that really spent the time to think about what we were going to ask.
Yeah.
Or, and obviously they're deer hunters too.
Yeah.
Okay. Next was about venison processing. I felt like this made a lot of sense. It said more than half, or 52% of respondents indicated taking their deer to a commercial meat processor. A similar proportion, 52% of respondents claimed they process their own meat. Yeah. That seems about right.
Yep.
Half the guys do it, half the guys. Even me. Look, I process some myself. I take a lot to the meat locker.
Yeah, that one makes sense to me.
Yeah. This one I thought was kind of interesting. Carcass disposal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It says that hunters that process their own deer commonly discard their carcasses on the property where they harvested the deer 48% of the time. So they take the carcass back out to where they shot it, which also could mean, hey, I shot it on the back 40, I cleaned it up in the barn, and then I've got a gut pile or bone pile out back. But I never do that. Take it back out to where I shot it.
That seems really weird.
And if 54% of guys are hunting on permission spots, I don't know that the landowners are like super stoked. They're like, hey man, I just shot this deer. Like, I'm going to go clean it up and then I'm going to bring the carcass back out here and dump it out in your field or like your backwoods. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then 35% dispose of the carcass using waste disposal services. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't know that you can, put it in I put it in big industrial garbage bags.
Yeah.
I always try to be really careful whenever I skin a deer. I take the hide and I try to put it in the bottom of the bag so that way if you have like the leg bones or anything, like that's things that could poke, you've got that nice kind of base of the hide.
Yeah.
And then I kind of put everything in. I'll put the rib cage in there and I kind of stuff everything in there the best I can. But I just always put it in the garbage.
Yeah.
I've actually had a couple times where they've not picked it up and I've had to call and be like, hey, I know that
this is legal.
Yeah, you're supposed to pick that up. And then they're always very apologetic. Nope, you're absolutely right. And they'll swing back by and pick it up like the next day.
Yeah.
But that's what I do.
Yeah. I wonder if that's just people not knowing that you can do that.
Yeah.
That is making them go and dump it back at their property.
And they also said that 23% discard the carcass on different property / a ditch. Yeah. Because you see that a lot, right? Or pieces of public land. Like you were out there this year and you're like, oh, there's like 5 carcasses. That had to be what it is.
Yeah.
Guys just drove out there at night and just backed it up and just right off the parking lot dumped them out in the ditch. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. All right. This one, this was a really cool question too. There's so much. We're only on section 2. We're going to be here all day.
Uh-oh.
Supplement feeding.
Okay.
Okay, so food plots, mineral, whatever that might be. There was 4 questions. The response are indicating their level of agreement with the following statements. Supplemental feed and nutrition provide necessary nutrient value for deer. 54% agree. Okay, that makes sense. Supplement feed and nutrition unnaturally congregate deer, leading to increased risk of disease transmission. 40% agree. So 54% say, yeah, man, like supplemental nutrition is great and it helps the deer. But then 40% were like, well, it's congregating deer and it's hard on them. And then some of these sections, like these questions, are broken down into strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. So 5 groups. So then what I started to do, and they're talking about when they say 54% agree, they're saying strongly agree. Do you follow me?
Okay, gotcha.
They're categorizing them together.
Okay.
So there's times when they say this much agree, but there may be more that were neutral. Does that make sense? And so some of it, you have to kind of read between the lines. But like the whole supplemental feed nutrition unnaturally, congregate deer, 40% said, hey, we agree, which was like roughly 1,500 respondents in agree, but then there was 1,400 that were neutral.
Oh.
But they didn't really even mention that.
Huh.
You follow me?
Yeah.
So like 1,500 people agree between strongly agree and agree, but 1,400 some said neutral. I don't really care either way.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like maybe you need to say like it's just neutral.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, next, supplemental feed and nutrition negatively impact deer health and created an unnatural reliance on temporary food sources. That was pretty neutral. 31% agree, 31% disagree, 31 were neutral. So that was a little bit better. Like, oh, okay, nobody cares. Like that's like, people don't really agree with that.
Yeah.
The use of supplemental feed nutrition outside the hunting season improves my ability to scout for upcoming season. 49% agree. So, but then interestingly, it was like 1,400 were neutral on that too. So, which I think shows you that like some guys do it, some guys don't.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. So that was kind of, all right. Next, section 3. Let's keep hustling here. Okay. All right. Hunter motivation and importance.
Ooh.
Really interesting stuff here.
Saucy.
What's motivating them, why they're hunting. So motivation or hunter typology. Okay.
Word.
Yeah. So of all respondents, let's just go through that first. All respondents. This would be for archery, early muzz, shotgun 1, shotgun 2, late muzz. All respondents, meat-based motivation accounted for 30%.
Okay.
30% for all respondents, all seasons. 30% was based around, meat-based. The next closest in all of it was 27% recreation, just hunting because I love it.
Yep.
Hunting because I love to be out there. It's a great hobby. The next one, 20% was social.
Oh.
Social-based motivations, okay? And then from there, the next one was 10% was skill. And then, interestingly, across all respondents, only 8% was based around trophy.
Really?
Yep. And then 5% was based around management. Yeah, of all respondents. So yeah. So then I'll read what it said. It said meat-based motivations was strongest for early muzzleloader season and weakest for archery season hunters.
Really?
Yeah. Social-based motivations were strongest for shotgun hunters in the shotgun seasons and weakest for archery and early muzz hunters. Trophy-based motivations were strongest for archery season and weakest for shotgun seasons.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, like when you start to go down the list, archery season, 33% based around recreation, 14%, which was the highest of all of them for trophy.
Huh.
Yeah. So a lot of guys in archery season are going out there because they think they're going to they want a big one.
Yeah.
Early muzz which I was really surprised by that because I don't know anybody that early muzz hunts for just meat.
Yeah, that seems weird.
But here's the thing. Think about it. If you are an early muzz guy, it's a great time to know you got deer coming onto a field. You can pattern them up really good.
Yeah, they're still coming to the food source.
And if you got early muzz doe tags,
yeah,
tell you what, there could be a really good opportunity that I kind of feel like I never even thought of. Think about early muzz doe tag. Imagine if you had Zippy's muzz during early.
That is true.
Get an early muzz doe tag, like that's a slam dunker. Yeah. Okay. So again, the crazy thing about that was 42% were based around meat motivation, and then 36% was based around recreation. But then you look at first and second shotgun, like we talked about, 29% based around, or actually 33% based around social for shotgun one. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. All right. Okay. This next section got really kind of hard to, to digest. I kind of feel like I'm going to skip it. It talked about,
okay.
It talks about, the following statements reflect motivations based on the different categories, and it kind of went through it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like statements you agree or disagree with.
Okay.
And I'll kind of go through the couple highest and the couple lowest. The highest ones that people agreed with were they hunt to be close to nature. That was a huge one. That was like between agree and a strongly agree and agree. That was like 90%.
Yeah.
To view wildlife in its natural habitat was very, very high. The experience and excitement of hunting was very high. Share experience with friends and family was very high. Get venison to eat was very high. The ones that were very low on the agree and disagree, and a lot higher on the disagree and really strongly disagree, was to balance deer sex ratios. People don't care about that. To harvest trophy bucks to mount. That was one that was the strongest to disagree with and very high on strongly disagree.
Really?
Yeah. Harvest a trophy buck to mount.
Interesting.
Yeah. Manage disease. People aren't really thinking about that, even though disease has become such a huge topic. And then maintain an important part of my social life.
That was on a
very low, like
very
on
low
the
disagree.
No, very high on the disagree, very low on the agree.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you can see it kind of just like came down.
Oh, okay.
This is agree, and this is disagree.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting that, and there's a good section through here that towards the bottom is there's a lot more neutral, but there's still a lot more disagreeing on that stuff too. So kind of interesting. Okay. All right. Importance level. Deer hunting was a relatively important recreational activity among respondents, with a majority of 67% claiming that deer hunting is at least more important than many of their other recreational activities, which that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
That seems like a no-brainer. This next section I thought was pretty cool, hunting satisfaction, and their deer hunting experience, asking a lot of questions about deer hunting experience. And for the most part, across the board here, everybody is happy with their deer hunting experience. Quality of deer hunting in Iowa, 74% satisfied. Overall deer hunting experience, 80% satisfied. The quality of bucks harvested, 42% satisfied. The quality of bucks you saw, 46%. The number of deer you harvested, 65% satisfied. The number of deer you saw, 66% satisfied.
Huh.
So I think what you can take across the board is people are pretty happy
definitely
with the deer they're seeing.
Yep.
Whether you're being successful or not, or even if you are, you aren't, the quality and the quantity, everybody's in a pretty good mood about that.
Yep.
And that's even with, you think about how much in a little bit of tough spot Southwest Iowa's in and parts of Southeast Iowa are in right now, to see that still, that's pretty cool. All right. Land access. The one I took away from this that I thought was that kind of jumped out to me is, again, the biggest response was neutral. There were too many deer hunters that use public land in Iowa. Most people were like, I don't agree or disagree with that. 2,500 were neutral on that. Okay. And then my deer hunting experience in Iowa would be improved if there was more public land. 45% agree.
Really?
Yeah, 45% agree. I am satisfied with my ability to access private land to hunt in Iowa, to hunt deer in Iowa. 54% agree. Which, again, that would make sense because we talk about how many people are knocking on doors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I thought that was... Okay, here we go. This is when they started to kind of dabble on the crossbow stuff a little bit. Methods of take. Or response were asked to indicate their level of satisfaction. Currently allowed methods of take during archery season, are you satisfied? 65% said, yep. Methods of take during firearm seasons, are you satisfied? 68% said, yep. Current allowed methods of take during muzzleloader seasons, are you satisfied? 64%. So everybody's satisfied.
Yep.
They're like basically saying, we're happy with the way it is.
Don't change it.
Even though they're going to ask a million questions about crossbows. And then this next was where they started. I said, I would support, this is interesting, I would support additional methods of take to be allowed during this season if it meant each hunter would only be allowed a total of one any sex deer tag per year.
Whoa.
Yep. And 56% said false. Nope. I would not be okay with that. True or false?
Wow.
I would support additional methods of take during this season if it meant each hunter would only be allowed to harvest one any sex deer that season. 56% said nope for archery.
Wow.
Yep. 54% said nope for firearms.
Huh.
So I feel like that's a pretty, and they didn't say what method of take. They didn't say what weapon, but I'm like, I wrote crossbows. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, and here's the thing, like, it's not that I have any vendetta against crossbows, but I do have my own opinion on it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And you know, and we'll get into that. They ask some of those pretty pointed questions here shortly. Hunter perceptions. Now this section was more geared towards deer hunter or the DNR.
Okay.
The perception of the 5-year deer hunting, the deer population trends. It said statewide, 44% of respondents perceive a decline in the 5-year deer population trend. 44% feel like they perceived a decline. They actually broke the state into 16 different areas. I won't go through it, but it breaks out the whole state, whether that's Black Hawk, the Great Lakes, Clear Lake, Grand River, Red Rock, Saylorville, Upper Iowa. Like there's all these different sections of the state.
Yep.
And you can see, a lot of people feel like there's fewer or much fewer deer. And then also within that, they not only had it in a graph, but they also broke it down by percentage. So then I kind of went the extra mile and I combined the much fewer, slightly fewer, about the same or slightly more, many more. There was not a single one of the 16 areas that the leading number was more. Do you follow me? Okay. So there was, of the 16 areas, 9 of the 16 said fewer, 7 said about the same. Do you follow me?
Yeah. What's your take on that? Do you agree with those numbers?
Well,
I mean, being hunted here so long and stuff.
So the interesting thing is I feel like I can only say that based on where I hunt. And so Clear Lake is one of the areas.
Yep.
Clear Lake, the high number was 42% said about the same. And I would tend to agree with that. I think that
hasn't really changed too much.
Well, I think that it's gotten more, in my opinion. I feel like I see more deer. Now, again, I think we've established that some of the permission pieces that I've been fortunate enough to hunt are almost kind of like little pockets of larger deer populations. But you can't discount the fact that the state of Iowa is allowing antlerless tags in Cerro Gordo County and some of these counties right here that they've never allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
Hancock County's getting doe tags. There's counties east of here that are getting doe tags that have never gotten them before. All of north central Iowa is getting doe tags that they haven't gotten before.
Right.
So I agree with where I'm at. That Clear Lake seems like it's about the same.
Yeah.
It's not declining, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of the state feels like it is.
Huh.
9 of the 16 zones say fewer deer. The only ones that said about the same was Black Hawk, Cedar Wapsie, Clear Lake, Odessa, Rathbun, Saylorville, and Saguma. So
that's pretty interesting.
I don't, dude. There's so much of this that like I've read
That's
through
crazy.
I've read through this like 5 times.
Well, the thing is I mean, think of that one's probably going to change a ton next year, given the year with EHD.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah.
I hope that they do this every year
Yep. Okay. I do too.
because it'd be cool to compare, like you said earlier.
Perception of the Iowa DNR. They didn't beat around the bush there. The moral of the story on this section that everybody's happy with the Iowa DNR.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised by that. I thought maybe people would be a little bit more.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like the questions are how your level of agreement. Iowa DNR manages the Iowa deer population to provide a quality hunting opportunity while minimizing negative impacts of deer. 55% agree. Iowa DNR staff is genuinely interested in providing quality deer hunting opportunities. 59%. The one that I thought was that I think didn't. It's not like they were trying to. I don't feel like they were trying to misshow the information, but just to be clear, the Iowa DNR considers the best available science when setting hunting regulations. 39% agree, 12% disagree. But interestingly, so of the agreeing, that was 1,500. The neutral was 1,900. So they didn't say that. You know what I mean? That a lot of people just didn't have an opinion on that. They're like, well, I don't agree with you, but I don't disagree.
Yeah.
That the Iowa DNR considers the best available science when setting hunting regulations. Which I would think that that's the one that the DNR was like, crap. Because if people are neutral, that means they're right in the middle. Yeah. Right in the middle, so they could swing one way or the other.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
The high mark of this category was I am confident I can contact the Iowa DNR staff to voice my concerns. 64% agree.
Yeah.
Which I think that's great because I know Minnesota, Zach Wren, you hear a lot of people talk about that dealing with the DNR and communicating with the DNR can be a real struggle.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, well, there's been so much with all the EHD and all that stuff that's happened there, and some of the changes and the rules within like certain buck size that you have to shoot and and then like where they've really tried to really like really heavy harvest on trying to get rid of some of this disease and stuff, and is that really like the right way to do it and the right way to manage it? And you hear about these open meetings where it just becomes like screaming matches. I feel like what I've experienced is when I have called the DNR, you can get a hold of somebody. Or if you can't get a hold of them, they'll call you back.
Yeah,
it's very easy to find the number in the books. You leave a message, they'll call you back. When we were at that meeting, those guys, they do kind of stand up there and they're kind of getting grilled by some people. Some people aren't happy, and they were all very gracious and very articulate and
very professional.
Yep, took the time and tried to listen.
Yep.
So I agree with most of that stuff there.
Yeah, I do too.
Yep. Section 6. Okay. This,
juicy.
You can't see it, but this is section 6, and it is the fattest part of the whole thing. There is a lot here. This is where we get into crossbows, cell cams, drones. Yep, there's some really interesting stuff. Okay. Regulatory preferences and emerging technologies.
Ayo.
Yep. Respondents were asked to indicate their level of agreement. The high mark on this one was we should support technology that allows people to hunt who otherwise would not be able to do so. 75% agree. Okay. But then again, listen to this. This is where some of it feels like it's like, man, it's kind of crazy. Any equipment that increases my chances to harvest a deer should be allowed. 43% disagree. So people are saying we should support technology to allow people to otherwise wouldn't be able to go. But any equipment that increases my chance to harvest deer should be allowed. They're saying like yes to one and no to the other.
Yeah.
And again, we know that demographically, more people were on the older side than the younger side of the hill when it came to their lifespan in hunting.
Yeah.
Do you follow me? Again, some equipment violates my principles of fair chase. 51% agree. I feel some equipment takes the skill out of hunting. 58% agree. Some of these are juicy. Regulations should restrict hunting equipment if it makes it too easy to harvest deer. 52% agree. But then there are currently too many restrictions of hunting equipment in Iowa. 38% disagree. So they were kind of trying to trick you, or they were really trying to see, like, okay, well, you feel like this over here. What about this over here?
Yeah.
Do you follow me? Advancements in hunting equipment help retain deer hunters. 45% agree. So yeah, there's a lot going on in that one.
Whoa.
I know, right? There's a lot. It's like the scale just keeps kind of like it's
teetering.
It feels like it's teetering on. We like the way it is.
Yeah.
We think the technology is important, but we don't want to let it
overtake it.
Yep.
Kinda.
And so it's just like tipping, you know. Okay. I made a big squiggly mark on this. It's very important.
Strap in, folks.
Yeah. Crossbows. Specifically. We asked respondents to indicate their agreement with 8 statements regarding the use of crossbows during archery season. Where's my noise? No. Yeah. Oh, 4 of which were Hey, Cricket, stop. 4 of which were positive statements and 4 of which were negative statements. 19% of respondents claim they own a crossbow. That's where that came from. So 19% of this 4,000 people, which was 771, used a crossbow. All right. Okay. Positive statements. Using a crossbow provides an advantage in harvest success over a vertical bow. 64% agree. I think it's funny you're so quiet. Allowing the use of crossbows would recruit new hunters to the sport of deer hunting. 58% agree. The use of crossbows would decrease wounding rates of deer hunting during the archery season. 36 agree, 31% disagree. Neutral was just as high. So that's a wishy-washy one. And then the effective range of crossbows is greater than that of a compound bow. 57% agree. Dang. Are you ready for the next ones?
Yes.
These next ones get juicy. So before we go on, the use of crossbows would decrease the wounding rates. I think that was, I think, answered correctly because that is such a hard thing to say.
Yeah.
How do you disagree or agree with that? It's like, man, I don't know. And then allowing the use of crossbows recruit new hunters to the sport of deer hunting. 58% agree. Here's the thing. And I'm just going to, again, if you haven't figured out where I stand on crossbows, I'm trying to be as objective as I can. But one thing I will say, we go to the Harrisburg show, the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and all week our booth is right across from Lancaster. They have a 40 by 120 or something.
Huge.
It's this huge booth. And they sell everything. I've never been to the Lancaster brick and mortar store, but I've heard it's really something to see. Sounds like they bring a ton of it there to the
they basically move their store.
We had an opportunity to meet the owner of Lancaster, which that was pretty cool. You know, could shake his hand and we talked for a few minutes. Avid elk hunter, was super cool. And we talked to the Lancaster guys all week, and what we hear them say every single year is they obviously keep very close eye on the departments. They've got compound bows. They've got some target archery stuff. They have broadheads. They have targets. They have crossbows. They've got
accessories, maybe.
They've got apparel.
Yeah.
They've got saddle tree stand stuff.
Yeah.
All that. The department that kills it for them every year, they say, crossbows hands down.
Yeah.
And they talk about over and over and over how, rifle hunting in Pennsylvania is a very, very popular thing. But the crossover, no pun intended, but the crossover from rifle hunting into archery has been made by the bridge that's been created by crossbows.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yep.
You know, and you hold up a crossbow, it feels a lot like a rifle. It's
Yeah.
got a scope on it, the whole shebang.
Yep.
And they flat out, they told us, and you can see it. Like, oh yeah, man, like crossbows is the most popular thing now. Like we sell lots of vertical bows, but we sell way more crossbows. I mean, you heard them.
Yeah, and you could see it.
You could see it. I mean, you see them just moving out the door. I mean, it's crazy. Like those guys, those couple guys over there, they were running around with their heads cut off every day. You know, and like I said, that's what makes me nervous about it, right? Like, I like the idea of the archery season being a vertical bow season.
I do too.
You know, and not that I don't want more hunters, but we have shotgun seasons. You know what I mean? Like, let's leave the shotgun seasons to shotgun seasons. Do I think that there's a lot of shotgun hunters that would become archery hunters if they could use a crossbow? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Here's my take on it. I agree too. I like that it brings new hunters in, but I feel like there needs to be like an age limit on it. Like I mean, I know you've talked about wanting to have Jet get a crossbow so he can come bow hunting.
Yep.
I think that's great. But for a 20-year-old kid who just doesn't want to take the time to learn how to shoot a compound bow, I don't think that's right.
Right.
That's just my take on it.
No, I 100% agree. I think that the way the state of Iowa has set up right now, where it's like if you have a shoulder injury and you have an injury, then absolutely, man. Like I know guys that were recurve guys that hurt a shoulder and they ended up going and getting they went to the doctor and they got the stuff that they need to do and they got a crossbow.
Yep.
I think when I worked in Colorado, I saw a lot of crossbows being used, and I thought it was awesome to see young kids, to see women that maybe didn't feel like they felt comfortable to pull a bow back. They wanted to be out there with their husband, with their son, their daughter. You know, so I think there's a place for crossbows.
Yeah, they're definitely
even like how now in Iowa you can use crossbows during late muzz, which is which is technically the second split of archery.
Yeah,
you know. So, but yeah, I like I hope that state of Iowa always just stays vertical bow only during the archery season.
Yeah, I agree.
And these positive negative statements were like, oh baby, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I'll tell you what, the next section was about, and it talked about this, not only referring to the archery seasons, but also the gun seasons. And I'll get into this next. There was questions on both of these sections about the tradition of the archery season, the tradition of the gun seasons, which is, I think, kind of like a little bit of what pulls me towards the vertical bow side of things is the tradition. But you could see it on the answers. People are not as much concerned about the tradition. Yeah. They're not worried about that. That's not what people aren't worried about the tradition. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. I just was that was interesting to me that they just didn't really. Okay. So now we get into the additional rifle calibers.
Ooh. I didn't know that was on there.
Oh yeah. Okay, we asked respondents to indicate the agreement with 7 statements regarding the use of additional rifles during the shotgun firearm seasons, 3 of which were positive, 3 are negative. 4 which were negative. 69% of the respondents claimed to own a high-powered rifle. We're not talking about a straight wall cartridge, a high-powered rifle. Bolt
69%?
action, 69% own a high-powered rifle. Dang. So that's what I'm saying. When they're talking about like 4,000 people responded, about 70% already have a high-powered rifle. So if they start a lot of high-powered rifles, it would be no transition. I mean, gun shops would sell a lot more high-powered rifles, but there's a ton of guys that already got them.
Holy cow.
69%.
It's a big number.
That's a huge number. Yeah, okay. Positive statements. These additional firearms would provide more effective method of harvest compared to other methods of harvest currently allowed. 52% agree. Allowing the use of these additional firearms would recruit new hunters to the sport of deer hunting. 49% agree.
Really?
There was a big section of neutral there too, though. But yeah, 49% agree. We recruit new hunters. Which here's the thing. I think that's true though, because look at me. I was a shotgun hunter as a kid, but then I've been archery through and through. I shoot my bow during late muzz. But they allowed straight wall cartridges, and Jet was getting to that age, and now I own a lever action, and I'm getting a rifle for Alaska, and if I had the opportunity and there was a January antler list, like there is now a January antler list, so you can use a high-powered rifle. If they allowed more counties and I had the chance to go, probably would. I know I have a certain other friend that's chomping at the bit that has a long-range high-powered rifle that he's been shooting a ton, that is counting down the days until the January antler list, or there's leftover tags in certain counties, and he's going to go try to ding something far.
My only thing to that is you're not a new hunter, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like, I don't get how that would make sense. That's weird.
Yeah. Some of it, I think, some of the questions, it's almost like they needed more context. Anyway. All right. The use of high-powered rifles during special seasons in CWD endemic areas of Iowa allow for better disease management in these regions. 67% agree. Yeah. Okay. Now this next, the negative statements, there was a lot of neutral on these. The increased harvest success would negatively impact the quality of Iowa deer's populations. 40% agree, 29% disagree. There was a huge section of neutral there, okay? The use of these firearms would erode the traditions of Iowa shotgun seasons. Neutral.
Really?
Pretty much across, but 43% agree, 30% disagree. The rest were neutral. So, but most people don't, and there was that same question on the archery side. People aren't concerned about that.
Yeah.
The long-range capabilities of these firearms would create an unsafe hunting environment. 52% agree, which is, I think, ever since I was a kid, what you always thought of. Because if you look at Ames south, boop, 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 it's fairly hilly. You look at Ames north,
it's like a different world.
It is, dude. I heard this years ago. I was hunting with a guy that was from Arkansas, and we were talking about. I said, "What's Arkansas look like?" He says, "Oh man, Arkansas is flat. Our biggest hill's an overpass." That's what's so true. That's northern Iowa, man. Our biggest hill's an overpass.
Yeah,
it's just there is not many hills.
Yeah,
if there's a hill, it's probably man-made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really what holds people back, and I think when they see that being answered that way, 52% are saying, "Hey, I don't think it's safe."
Yeah, that's
where I think if they ever allowed it, it might be very county or regionally specific.
Yeah, it'd almost have to be. That's how Wisconsin kind of started with rifles too.
I think that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But I will say the contradiction to that is, like for example, night muzzleloaders. Man, I'd love to get a night muzzleloader. I've talked about this. I've drooled over those things. Mm-hmm. What those guys are doing, what a lot of these muzzleloader companies are doing, and how far you can shoot one of those things now.
Yeah.
How is that not a high-powered rifle?
Yeah, like you always say, it's a single-shot rifle.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible what those things could do. More power to them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I wish I could get my hands on one.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to go like, bloop, 450, ready, here we go.
Yeah.
Now, that takes a lot of skill.
Yeah.
But you can do that. The gun's not going to be the limitation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, next one. There would be too many hunters afield during the shotgun seasons if they allowed rifles. That was a neutral statement again, too. People are very neutral on that.
Yeah.
All right. The other juicy one, trail cameras. And they broke this down into, they talked about transmitting cameras and internal storage cameras.
Yep.
Okay. The majority of respondents, 60%, indicated that they used trail cameras in the last 5 years, not cell-based or internal, just 60% use cameras. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The DNR kind of messed up, I think, on how they asked this next question because people picked more than one response.
Oh, okay.
So the percentage was like 250%.
Oh, okay.
You follow me?
Yep.
But the highest percentage of response of what do you use the trail cameras for was scouting, 82%. The next was wildlife viewing, 62%. 51% for hunting, 49% for property security. Again, it's not going to add up to 100 because people could have answered more than one. They circled more than one.
You said that one of them was hunting?
Yep, was 51%.
Wouldn't that be the same as scouting? I wonder what the
not necessarily because it's like if it's like right now we're scouting for turkeys, we're not hunting for them.
I gotcha. Okay, yeah,
I mean, we're scouting right now. We're not hunting turkeys. We're scouting.
Okay.
I mean, we're just using them we're just scouting them.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We asked respondents to indicate their level of support for the following. Do you support the use of transmitting cellular trail cameras during deer season? 45% support.
That's it, huh?
Yep, I know. I thought that was going to be way higher. The use of internal storage or memory card trail cameras, what level do you support them during deer season? 61% support.
Ooh.
There's a lot of people that are kind of on the fence on the whole cell trail cameras. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yep. Yeah. And again, the interesting thing is so if you break that section down a bit more into the actual from all the different 5 categories that they have on do you support using transmitting cell cameras, 1,727 strongly support or support. Okay. 1,100 were neutral. 964 were opposed or strongly opposed. So there's some people that are out there that don't like cell cams.
Yeah, big time.
There's people that are neutral, and there's a lot of people that like them, but there's a lot of people that don't like them too. Yeah. Okay. This one I thought was cool because I think we have stances on this. We asked respondents to indicate their level of agreement or disagreement to the following statement. Seeing another hunter's trail camera would negatively impact my hunting experience on public ground. Primarily public land hunters said 30% agree, 27% disagree, a lot of neutrals in there. And all respondents said 29% agree, 22% disagree. So again, very neutral on those statements. 1/3 of the people said, yeah, that I don't like that. 30 people said, I don't really care. And 30% said, I'm fine with it.
It's funny because I hate seeing other people's.
I do too.
But then it's funny because I'm doing the same thing.
Exactly. And I think I think that's why people are very just wishy-washy.
Neutral, yeah.
And I think that what I took away from that is people know they're going to see cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
We're living in the cell cam day and age.
Yeah, it's just
you're not gonna like, dude, we went to that spot
Oh
that I
my
used to hunt.
gosh.
Oh my goodness. Jeez, oh pizzos.
I mean,
It's like,
we did not get far back into that piece.
no. And everywhere we went, cell cam, cell cam, cell cam, cell cam. It was
I
like
mean, realistically, how many do you think we saw in that? I mean, how far were we in there? Not very far. And
Oh,
I
dude.
bet you we had to have saw like 5 or 7. 5 to 7.
we walked up, yeah.
Crazy.
Walked across that and then up into those trees, and I bet we seriously saw 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And then the first couple, I think we just walked by, and then I was like, okay, we're going to try to walk around these things now because this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
We were like walking behind them. I'm like, geez, oh, Pete's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of cell cams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next section, drones. This was an interesting thing. One of these topics, I think you're going to be like, dang. 49% of respondents indicated support and 34% indicated opposition of prohibiting the use of drones on state-owned wildlife management areas during all hunting seasons. That would be September 1st through January 10th. Which we go out, Ozonics has a drone and we fly it, on a lot of public ground, like just to get, like if, oh man, it's foggy day, it's a great day, beautiful sunrise, like whatever we might have, calm day, whatever, if we're out, we'll have it with us. That could put a little pinch on some things.
Is that, you might get into this later on, but I'm just going to ask it now.
Yep.
Is that, I mean, what is that just drone deer recovery, or is it just
says,
using drones in general?
It just says drones. It just doesn't say specifically, it just says drones.
Okay.
That's all it says.
Okay.
Yep. And that's all they really went into that with. That was the only question they really had.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So again, there was a ton on crossbows. There was a ton on cellular trail cameras. And then there was very little on drones, very little on night vision thermal, and very little on air-powered weapons.
Okay.
Okay. So the next one was night vision thermal optics. Again, the thing about this was very neutral. 35% of respondents indicated support, 35% indicated opposition. The rest were neutral.
Okay.
About night vision and thermal technologies for predator hunting during the deer seasons. I thought that was very specific during the deer seasons.
Yeah.
Air-powered weapons, 14% of respondents indicated support, 46% indicated opposition for the use of air-powered weapons to hunt deer in Iowa. So like Benjamin air guns, things like that.
Yep.
When I was a videographer, I watched, I I watch pigs get shot with air guns.
Really?
Yeah, dude, those things are pretty lethal.
Yeah.
They'll kill stuff.
Yeah.
I've been a part of predator hunting with air guns. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of just misunderstanding on that.
Yeah.
And they're expensive. They cost a pretty penny.
Yeah. I don't know a thing about them.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's literally air powered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like it's like a paintball gun, except it's got a,
Yeah, I guess.
yeah. But yeah. So I thought that section 6, all about all that and the methods of take was really interesting about some of that stuff.
Especially with how they worded some of those questions.
I know. I know. Okay. Next, fair chase. Respondents were asked to indicate their level of agreement to the following. The one that led the way on this one was the Iowa Dnr should consider the principles of fair chase when setting hunting regulations. 79% agree.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining fair chase principles during the hunting season is more important than the harvest. 72% agree, which I was glad to see that.
Yep.
Harvesting game without fair chase is wrong. 76% agree. So good.
Yeah.
Good people have moral compass. Again, dude, it's funny because they go back. Emerging technologies. Talking about fair chase. Respondents were asked to indicate their level of agreement. Using drones impacts fair chase of animals hunted. 79% agree.
The drones?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Impact fair chase.
I guess, yeah.
Which I've heard horror stories of guys sitting in a tree stand and hearing a drone come fly over, check a field, and then fly back out.
I guess, yeah.
And, hey, we've got that buck on that fence line and we need to move him. We want to get him over in this field.
Yep.
Go and fly a drone down on top of him.
Drone drive.
Bump him off.
Yep.
So that's where it can be detrimental, right?
Yep.
Using electronic range finding sights on bows impacts the fair chase of animals hunted. 49% disagree.
Really?
Yeah, 49% say it doesn't affect fair chase.
Yeah, I guess I could see that kind of.
I mean, they're legal. They're legal in Iowa. There's a lot of states that they're not too.
Yeah.
It's like kind of a hodgepodge.
I would have, right when you said that, I expected it to be a little bit higher. Mm-hmm. But I guess that does kind of make sense. I mean, still a lot needs to kind of happen.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Using thermal vision technology for predator hunting impacts fair chase. Neutral across the board. 35, 36, agree, disagree. Using night vision technology for predator hunting affects fair chase. Very neutral. Using transmitting cell cams impacts fair chase of animals hunted. 37% agree, 36% disagree. Very neutral again. Yeah, I know.
Really?
Which is funny how that's like right in the balance. There's a lot of people that are still up in the air on that, it seems like. As popular as they are and as many as are out there. I mean, I know how many we have and everybody else we know has. Using internal storage trail cameras impacts fair chase of animals hunted. 50% disagree. So people feel like, internal cards, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
They've been around long enough. We've debated that. But cell cams...
Whoa.
And they're still thinking, people are still trying to decide about night vision and thermal vision.
Yeah.
Now, is it that they're trying to decide or they just don't know that much about it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Last section, chronic waste disease. They went into it. They had a CWD category. They talked about knowledge and then they talked about concerns, which I thought was pretty interesting. I think they're trying to figure out, do people know that much about it?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Here, this is interesting. On a 7-point scale, 0 being no knowledge, 7 meaning extensive knowledge, respondents self-selected an average score of 4.4. So they had some knowledge, but they didn't have a ton of knowledge.
Low.
Yeah, they were just kind of just teetering in the middle. Here we talk about concerns. Indicate their level of agreement with the following statements. I am comfortable hunting in Iowa where CWD has been detected in wild deer. 51% agree. I am concerned about the current prevalence of CWD in Iowa. 59% agree. I am concerned that CWD will negatively impact the quality of deer hunting in Iowa. 69% agree. I'm concerned that CWD deer in my region will affect my health or my family's health, neutral.
Yep.
30, 31, 29, neutral. People are concerned about CWD.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you could see where some of these is like 49%, 53%, 69% say, hey, we're concerned about CWD and how it's going to affect deer populations and the deer quality. And then, and again, interesting number here. Willingness to continue hunting. This was the last question. Willingness to continue hunting. Overall, 63% of respondents indicated that they would continue to hunt during or in a CWD positive county. So even despite CWD,
they're still going.
They're still going to keep hunting.
Huh.
So I thought that was like, oh, CWD, that's really, guys are still going out.
Yep.
And they're willing to still going out, Yep. And the high number on that of the willingness to continue to hunt in CWD zones actually was the 24 to 34 and 35 to 44. 70% said, yeah, I'm going to keep hunting in CWD if you're 24 to 34. And it was like 73% and like 72% from 35 to 44. But then interestingly, when you got older, 65 plus said just over 50% willing to keep hunting there. So, yeah, I'll tell you what we'll do if you've made it this far and if your head isn't spinning or you're pulled over on the side of the road trying to, digest all this, we'll put a link to the survey.
Yep.
On the website. We'll have it on the YouTube description as well.
Yep.
This is really, really a really cool thing. You can just look at it on your phone, just look at it online, or I printed it out and then scribbled all over it. But pretty interesting stuff in this.
Very much so.
And I think at some point, I think we really are going to try to reach out to somebody and try to figure out, have they done this before?
Yeah.
This is the first year they've done this.
Yep.
And it would be really interesting to see how people's opinions and perspectives and answers change.
Yep.
The thing I think too is probably the questions change.
Oh yeah, well they have to.
Yep. And so some of it I think you could go, oh, okay, this is very close or this is very far, but but a lot of really, really cool stuff in there.
What do you think your biggest takeaway was after going through all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my biggest takeaway was it was really interesting to know roughly how many resident deer hunters.
Yep.
Right off the bat to go, okay, there's 165,000 resident deer hunters, 6,000 non-resident.
Yep.
That's kind of cool to know.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, is that a completely accurate number? I don't know. Maybe it's like if they're counting however they're counting it. But I was kind of surprised that more people weren't concerned about the traditions of hunting.
Yeah, that one was surprising to me too.
You know what I mean? I think the one thing I was interested, which I kind of thought it was going to be low, but I fall really into the meat category of hunting and the management category.
Right.
With some of the depredation stuff that I do and really a lot of the antlerless hunting I do. Mm-hmm. I feel like I do from a management perspective or the landowners that I'm working with to do that.
Yeah.
Right. But I was really happy to see the meat-based motivation to be so high across all categories.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes I feel like that isn't the motivation.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't see that a lot.
No,
I don't think.
And you don't.
I mean, that's not really why I go.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, part of it too is just the world that we live in, right? Like, it doesn't look cool if you're like posting a picture of like, hey, look at the pile of venison that I got for my deer. Like,
yeah.
You want to see a guy holding, a big 12-point buck or whatever, you know?
Exactly.
So, but I know meat is really important to me just because, like I said, I love to eat deer sticks. I love to eat deer sausage and stuff like that. And then, like I said, with the kids, and
that's
just having hamburger and
that's exactly what I was going to say. That's why it's different for me. I guarantee you, if I ever get lucky enough to have kids, that will probably change. I'll probably be out trying to shoot a couple more deer so I can have food for my family. But when it's just me, I still got a ton of deer left from the one deer that you gave me.
Yeah.
Ton of meat left, I should say.
And got it processed.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So.
Yep. Yeah.
But.
Have you been eating on those deer sticks?
Yep. Opened up a pack last night.
Man. It was funny. I was just thinking about that too. I was opening the refrigerator. I'm like, man, I need to grab that's what I did this year. I made some of that summer sausage. I shouldn't say I made it. I got it from the Elma Locker and then processed it into summer sausage.
Yeah.
It costs a little bit extra, but man, that's good.
I know.
I cut it really, really thin.
Yeah.
And then I put it on a cutting board, cut it really thin. And then I actually cut it into little strips that make it look like deer meat French fries.
Yeah.
And I eat them one at a time.
Well, it was funny because I was sitting there watching TV. I'm like, I'm going to go grab a beef stick. I was really excited. Take a bite of it. I'm like, I can tell that I've been eating like a lot of these.
Oh, really?
Because it's almost like, oh, just kind of getting almost like, I need to like take a break for a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I mean, I eat them quite a bit. Like,
Oh, that's good.
they're good, you know. But
Have you ever cut them in half and like put them on a sandwich?
no, well, I got the summer sausage too,
Oh, okay.
and I cut those up and put those on sandwiches,
Okay.
and I like that. That's good.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that my big takeaway is, again, we're getting off subject. It's interesting to kind of have a rough estimate of how many deer hunters. I was glad to see how much the meat motivation was important to people. I was a little disappointed to see how people aren't as worried about the tradition.
Yeah.
I think the other big takeaway was the Iowa Dnr has got their ear close to the track on the crossbow discussion and the cell cam discussion.
My biggest takeaway was for sure the trail cam stuff.
Right?
I thought some of those numbers were really, really surprising to me
Yeah, super intriguing.
because, one, I feel like I don't really know anybody who's like against cell cams.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if, and what's funny is I would love to ask him. My brother-in-law, he doesn't have any cameras at
True.
all. He doesn't have any cameras. And it's funny because I guess I haven't just like flat out,
Like, are you against it?
like, are you against it? Or like, why don't you have any? And he just, I don't know. I mean, let me say this. We've kind of had this discussion, him and I, a little bit, and his reasoning is actually pretty good. He's like, here's the deal, Cole. Like, I don't need cameras to tell me that the deer are there.
yeah.
If I go deer hunting and I put the wind in my favor, and if I go out there when it's real cold and it's the end of October or November, I know, and if I do everything the best I can to the best of my ability, I'm probably going to see some deer.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to shoot. He's like, I'm not trying to shoot a mega giant. One walks by, I'd love to shoot it. But like, I just want to be out there, and I want to be out there in that magical time of year during the rut. And he's not wrong.
No.
Because
No,
if you
not at
put
all.
your if I asked you what are the 5 things, like the 5 characteristics or 5 pieces of the puzzle that you could put together based on like the environment or the conditions, it would be time of year. So
Yep.
let's just say mid-November, super cold day, right? Like not very windy. What else would you say? Hunting, a real good wind if you could.
Yep.
And then maybe it'd be those 4.
Yeah.
And I feel like what he does is he just puts those things in his favor.
Yeah.
Like where I'm the opposite. It's October 1st, and if it's rainy, windy, and it's 80 degrees,
You're going.
we're going deer hunting, baby.
Yeah.
And then on the 2nd, and then on the 4th, and then on the 7th, and then on the 10th, and on the 12th, and the 16th,
Yeah.
and the 19th, and the 21st. And I've already put in
Yeah.
a week and a half of hunting where I'm just sitting there, just like,
Do, do, do.
here we go, baby,
Yeah.
deer hunting.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm not really doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing deer. It's not like, I mean, I am.
You're
know what
seeing deer,
I'm
but-
seeing deer, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
whereas I think, and again, when I say all this, my brother-in-law is a farmer too, and he has a full-time job and he farms on the side. So the fall gets to be a really busy time for him.
Yeah.
So I think he just looks at it and goes, man, I don't need cameras to like tell me the deer are there. Like I know they're deer there, and I'm going to go there when the weather's right. I'm going to go there when it's the right day. And it's, if I can try to get the right wind and do what I can and try to put everything in my favor, like I'm just going to go hunting. Like and like there are going to be deer there. And then if one walks by, then great,
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah. I feel like too, though, that's kind of our mindset too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the main reason that I like having trail cams out is because I really just love looking at deer.
Well, and I think it's interesting when we were talking about the trail cam part, like if you really had to check one box, you would honestly probably fall into the wildlife viewing.
Probably.
Dude, you're just viewing them. Dude, think about that. You're into wildlife viewing. You could probably, if you were into birds, you would be like a professional birder.
Well, it's funny. It's like at that public spot, there's a massive scrape that we probably can't even, it's going to be really hard to hunt over, and I'm still probably going to put a camera over it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Because you just want to see them.
Like, it's literally like, it gives me really no advantage to having a camera there.
It's just wildlife viewing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally a wildlife viewer.
I know.
You actually fit in that category. It's kind of funny that kind of having that realization.
I mean, it's, middle of March, and I'm still downloading videos off my cell cam of deer. Like, what's the point of that? Like,
you're texting me at 8:00 at night and writing, Tommy's on the riv. Copy, Tommy's on the riv.
I repeat.
Tommy's on the riv. Hey, North Riv. Tommy's on the riv. North Riv. Check on better look. I'll send you the picture right now. Oh,
sick though.
Oh yeah. But yeah, you're definitely in the wildlife viewing.
I think so too.
But I take that away from this whole survey too. This questionnaire is there was a lot of very pointed questions on feeling people's temperature.
Yeah.
About cell cams, about crossbows.
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I even said that when we went to that meeting, and I said, yeah, I felt like the questionnaire was a lot about crossbows and cell cams.
Yeah,
and that CO guy was like, yeah.
They all kind of started laughing.
Yeah, they were all kind of, which be interesting to see.
Yeah.
How something does change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I say we wrap it up.
Yep.
Man, we went through a lot there.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, but I think it's good. Like I said, I think there's a lot of interesting takeaways from that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it's always good to just kind of have the opportunity to see different perspectives on things. And I felt like to hear how Iowa resident deer hunters are feeling about major topics.
I think it's really good to just kind of like be in the know of it too. Like kind of almost be involved in this, and like I think it's really a big part of what the DNR does, really. So
Absolutely.
it's good to
and it's cool that they're willing to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
Because think about them. Think about those roundtable discussions that they're having about this. And how they're going, okay, this is what this means. Yeah. This is what we thought it was going to be. This is what this is what people said. And I think the other thing I would say is it would be really cool next year to see the number of respondents double or triple. Yeah. Instead of 4,000, man, can you imagine if it was 10,000? And just to see that number be a bit more accurate.
Right. Yeah.
And what that things mean. And or see the age demographic more leveled off.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, let's wrap it up. Ozonics, Killerwinds podcast, another one in the books. Done.
See you next week.